service to the community.
Yep. So, and joining us today is Tyler Moss from Vermont State Housing Authority. We were sort of joking offline that he has become the de facto face of the VERAP program. So he's here to give everybody a little bit of background, what landlords need to know. And I believe you're going to show us a little bit of the Landlord Portal so landlords know what to expect when they access the system. So Tyler, I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can go forward. And if folks have questions, again, please put them in the Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Angela and Brian. Again, I'm Tyler Moss with Vermont State Housing Authority. I am one of the program managers for the Vermont Emergency Rental Assistance Program. I'm going to share my screen here and do a couple of things. Just a quick overview of VERAP for those who aren't familiar with it, and then we'll jump into how to access the Landlord Portal and hopefully have enough time here for some questions and answers, and I'll do my best to answer all the questions. This program is sort of a $100 million pop-up business or whatever. So it's something that has come together quickly. We've had a lot of support from the Landlord Association. Thank you so much. Vermont Legal Aid, the Department of Housing, and community partners. We have worked with, we've trained 40 community partners to help people with the application process. Mostly those are tenant applicants. We have, we estimate, there should be 20 to 30,000 people at least who are eligible for this program. And we have about 2,500 landlords that we work with around the state who are who we imagine will be many of which will be taking part in this program as well. So I will let you know here how to access the information, also some application assistance and where to direct tenants, which will be sort of a big part of it. Landlords have been doing a great job of keeping up with their portion. Their side of the application, the certification side, is a little bit more straightforward, and landlords are used to access or filling out this type of paperwork, but a lot of tenants are not. So that's where there's some struggle there. So hopefully being able to direct your tenants to the right place and learn a little bit here today, we'll all feel more comfortable. So I'm going to jump to my, hopefully I had him queued up, and of course, let me just jump off here for a second because I want to go out to my apologies. It moved over when I logged into the conference. It took it off of.
All good. The joys of Zoom.
Yeah, right. Home. Let's see. Okay.
It wouldn't be a Zoom if there wasn't some sort of technical glitch or somebody talking while they were on mute, which I did when we first started. So
is this is sharing now?
Yes.
It should be. Oh, and I have to move this so that I can make it green for y'all. Hopefully now it's filling up most of the page for you.
It is.
Great. So anyway, again, this is just the overview of the VERAP for people that are completely unfamiliar with it. So the Vermont Emergency Rental Assistance Program is being run by the Vermont State Housing Authority. It has the goals of providing economic relief to landlords and tenants, stabilizing the rental market, and stimulating the economy. This is a way for the federal government to plug us with a bunch of money and get it out through hopefully helping people with their rent and helping landlords meet their bills and financial needs as well. So the Vermont State Housing Authority received $110 million in federal funds. The money can be used for rent, and that is both back rent arrears, and that goes back to April 1st of 2020. So that's a key date to remember when people are looking at their ledgers and how far back they can go with tenants. we can also make forward prospective rent payments. The total assistance is written in a particularly federal guidance way where it's 12 months or up to 15 months. The way that works is that it's an aggregate of both back rent and prospective forward rent. So if you're covering back rent for, say, for example, 3 months, then you'd be eligible for 9 months initially of forward rent, and then an additional 3 months if there's a need for additional housing stability. So it'll end up being about up to 15 months available to people for their rent. But the renters will need to address some arrearage if there is any. So that is an important thing to remember. If they have back rent, that they will not be able to just let that go and put all the money towards forward rent. They will have to pay some of their arrears. However, the guidance does allow for them not to pay all of the arrearage. That's something that you'll need to discuss with your tenants. What's the best way forward, whether they have a lot of arrearage, but now they have their job back, and so everything's going to be great going forward and they're able to make their rent payments on time, then maybe it's best to deal with the arrearage in total. If this looks like something that might be ongoing and to go forward, that would be better. That's something the tenants and the landlords will have to figure out. Vermont Legal Aid does offer some guidance to tenants, so you can direct them towards Vermont Legal Aid to help them with determining what will be the best for their course forward to maintain their housing. There will also be a portion of the program that will deal with utilities, same structure, both back and forward with the amount of months. That part of the application is not available yet. That's being administered by the Department of Public Services, and they will have that up. They're hoping again for by the end of May, and to have that portion that will be accessible through the same portal. So hopefully that will make it easier for people to access, for the tenants to access all of the assistance available through this program. There's also a relocation costs part of the program, and that's called Money to Move. Some of you might recognize the name from our previous rental housing stabilization program that many of you participated in, that can help with first, last, and security, as well as additional other housing costs. And those are being, the details of that are still in construction with the Agency of Administration. We have most of that dialed in at this point, and it will be available. Tenants, that portion again will be for helping people to move, and that'll be available in the same portal as well. And hopefully some of those other the costs will be things like moving trucks and things like that to help people their relocation.
I was gonna say, the one thing on that list, Tyler, that might be of interest to some landlords is that there's money that can be made available if there's some repairs that need to be made to the property. So there is some additional assistance there if there's some damage or other items that are causing maybe some friction between the landlord and tenant. That can also get rolled into a part of this payment, and that actually doesn't count towards the 12 to 15 months. That's a separate sort of category of service that the program can provide. So that's something that's new that wasn't available under RHSP, and might be a good benefit depending on what the circumstances are.
Right, and it can also be used in the Money to Move for helping if there's a place that a tenant wants to move in, if landlord has a tenant already picked out, but perhaps they need to make some repair to bring the house up, the unit up to code.
So I know we're going to answer some questions at the end, but before we go on, if a landlord is trying to actually get some of that money to help with repairs, is that a separate application from the landlord of the program, or is it all through the tenant as well?
So everyone needs to be involved in this process, but the landlord will be the one determining what those repairs are. and it'll be in coordination with the tenant. The details of the repairs are not finalized, and so I'm a little bit hesitant to go into too much detail with that. I don't want to lead people down the wrong path.
We appreciate that.
I mean, and if folks are, hearing like, wow, this program launched and you're still making changes, we all last Friday just received a new round of federal updates to the rules. So the field is shifting as we go and as the program is being developed. So it's challenging for everybody, and we're having to make some shifts on the fly as the federal government says, oh no, this is what we meant you needed to be doing. So
thank you, Angela. I don't like to put qualifiers in my presentations, but feel free to do it for me anytime you like. Basic eligibility, these are that you're a residential tenant in Vermont. So this is not a program for homeowners, and it's not a program for business rentals. And we get a lot of calls on that, on both of those things. The main criteria, this is the one that is going to determine the eligibility for a lot of folks, is the 80% of area median income. So the tenants, the entire household needs to meet the income eligibility criteria, and that is all household members over the age of 18, and that can be done a few different ways. We'll go into that a little bit more, but they can either use their 2020 full annual income, or they can use the past month of current income, and that can, the 2020 income, best way is the tax return. We're getting close to that deadline, so hopefully most people will have filed and have access to that. A lot of people are doing it online, so they have that digital version, or if they're, the people that prepared it, their tax preparer has sent them that information. So letting tenants know that they need to have that income verification on hand before they apply is very important. So they need to have, tenants need to have experienced a hardship due directly or indirectly to COVID-19. The financial hardship can be anything from increased food prices, purchasing supplies, internet, anything where the price has gone up. There really isn't anybody who has not been affected by COVID-19 financially. So the idea is that they can self-attest to this. They can provide documentation. There's also areas as they select in the portal what the tenant's area of hardship is. They can provide some backup for that. There are also the third is, are you experiencing housing instability or have a history of experiencing housing instability or homelessness? This is most usually demonstrated by past due notices, either with rent or utilities or an eviction notice. So as you all know, you need to get those past due notices out to people. So they will need to provide that as documentation of this potential housing instability, and also it can be for the financial hardship. So having those notices available for tenants or sending them out, making sure they have those in digital form is best. Paper form if need be, just if they can have it already in their computer digitally, it'll be easier for them to upload. So the income, the finances, and the housing instability.
And if you're taking the step of sending the tenant a termination notice, so past due notice can just be an email to the tenant with a ledger saying, hey, you're behind on rent. Like, that's as simple as it can be. It doesn't have to be super official. If you're sending an actual termination notice, there are some lingering federal requirements from last year. So please make sure your termination notice is at least 30 days for non-payment of rent. So there's a few changes. You still can send those termination notices. It just has to be longer.
So for this program, we have teamed up with a third-party vendor, Reframe Solutions, and they are they work with this BPO American who is doing the call center and the case management and determining the eligibility. So this has, although Vermont State Housing Authority is administering it, we do have full-time staff working on it in-house. The idea is that this is a long-term program, right? That's going to be going on for a while. We've determined we will definitely be taking applications through December 31st or until of 2021, or until as funds are available. So that could change, but always we will post those updates on our website. So as these are coming in, they are going through the portal. We have a lot of community action, community partners, community actions, home ownership centers, the U.S. Committee on Refugees and Immigrants, and public housing agencies, Vermont Legal Aid, homeless service providers. There's a lot of people in the community that have been trained. Some of those trainings are happening as recently as yesterday and Monday. I believe there was one as well. And so we're still updating our website with those community partners, but I'll show you where to access that a little bit later. This again jumps into just some of the documentation. This is what we've noticed as the big slowdown for people, sort of identified that people don't have their documentation ready. So they get in, they start their application process, but they don't have anything. So encouraging landlords and tenants to have everything ready when they sit down to that computer will help everything move along smoothly. Like I mentioned, the 2020 income verification, or the most recent, things have gone back and forth. The 2-in-1 is another one that has changed. It is 30 days. My apologies for that. So it's past 30 days for the most recent payment verification. You'll also need to have a lease or a rental agreement. Now that was on the hands of the tenant. We are making upgrades that will be available and on Monday of next week, the 17th, so that the tenant can sort of push that off onto the landlord. We find that a lot more landlords have access to their lease than the tenants. Tenants seem to misplace them sometimes. So there will be a box that the tenants can check on their application saying that the landlord will be providing that the lease or some sort of verification of obligation to pay rent. We're also working on a form that will be attached to the application. So if landlords had a verbal agreement, which we never encourage, that they can come up with something that will basically give the same information as the lease, so that and we can use that documentation as well. Tenants who received unemployment, having that available if that's their income documentation, or Social Security, disability, child support, pensions, anything that's applicable to show how much they've earned, since the income eligibility is.
And Tyler, if I understand correctly, if tenants are supplying their 2020 tax return, that one document sort of takes the place of having to chase down all the rest of those.
Correct. So if you provide the 2020 verification, then the tenant is eligible for the full 12 months up front. They will still need to go on. We're just doing it in 3-month chunks anyway, so that they will go in, because there are other verifications. Because it's not only the income, it's the hardship, although they shouldn't change, because the hardship or the housing instability will have always been there. They still will need to go in every 3 months to recertify that. The landlords should be able to just check in on that and say that the tenant still, that this money is still needed. If they use their 2020 income as verification of eligibility, then that's for the full time. If they use the most recent 30 days of income verification, they will need to go in and recertify their income eligibility. Every 3 months, they'll be sent out a reminder after 60 days. So that'll give them 30 days to log back in and provide that information to then recertify them for an additional 3 months. So it'll keep going in 3 months chunks until they've reached the full, the maximum benefit. Landlords, in your portal, you'll contact information, you'll set all that up. The program does send out verifications and requests for information, missing information through emails. That's the best way for people to receive it. They can also SMS text message to do that. The attachments, however, will go through the email. So hopefully everyone will have an email set up for that. They can also go out by US Postal Service if that is the preferred method. We will need new W-9 and direct deposit information as well. I know everybody's provided that for previous programs in the past, but since this is a third-party vendor making the payments, that will need to be uploaded. And I'll show you where to do that on our website. But just making sure that you have that. And your W-9, it gets a little confusing with people because tenants will be able to select their landlord from a drop-down list, but it's alphabetically it's listed, but there are some differences. You got to make sure your tenants know the actual owner name. It shouldn't be Steve or Brian or whatever. It should be, I don't know, Green Mountain Property Management or something like that. That's probably a real one. But an example of, there's a lot of different owner entities. So make sure that the tenants understand who the real owner is.
I mean, and that could be, Tyler, that could be part of, if the landlord's sending the delinquent rent notice to just, include in there, just so you're aware the legal name of this property owner is, for the VERAP application, make sure they know this is something that communication's very important.
Yeah, communication is huge on this, and it sounds strange too, but you might also include your monthly rent. We were surprised how many tenants come back, even when they upload their lease and still don't know. And a lot of times that's not something that they've focused on. Perhaps they've had a subsidy, for a long time, and they know that their tenant portion is $323 or whatever. They don't know that the rent is $1,200, right? They know that the state housing authority or a local housing authority covers the difference, and they concentrate on their own portion. So if that's information that you have available in your records, providing any information to your tenants will help that, so that they know what their rent burden is, as well as what their full contract, their monthly contract rent is. So having that in there will be helpful. And then like the attestation of that they will not increase the rent while participating in this program. That's important. If people have already issued a rent increase before the program started, which was April 5th, then that rent increase can go through, but no new ones will be able to be issued until after this program participation. So you can't jack up the rent after 3 months knowing that it's coming from.
But if you run into a situation where your property taxes have increased, or you have a large utility increase, or some other unexpected expense occurs, there is a process to have that reviewed and to ask for the ability to do a rent increase while you're in the program, but you have to get permission first to do it. So just, I know for some folks that's been a really hesitation, like, well, I haven't seen my new tax bill, and I know in Burlington we just got reassessed, and God knows what's going to happen with our taxes. So just, some of these things have been thought out, and there is, a process to deal with them. But sort of the blanket is you can't increase the rent because they did not want people to say, okay, well, we're going to double the rent because we know somebody else is paying for it. So that's the reason why some of these requirements are in here.
Right. And so then the other part is the life safety codes, and then also that the landlords will make an effort to participate in weatherization. That's just a checkbox. We hope everyone will do that at all turns all the time, right? That's the idea.
Right. And there may be some money with some other programs, some of the rehab programs that are available to assist landlords with some of these weatherization processes. So there's a lot of different avenues to get assistance or to deal with some of these things.
Right. And landlords should know that if the tenant, so in the rental housing stabilization program, the landlords were able to apply by themselves separately if the tenant was not participating. So, and then eligible for 50% of the arrearage. In this program, landlords will not be able to apply by themselves. We're working on a method so that landlords can initiate an application, because right now it's up to the tenant to initiate it, and we're realizing that that's something that needs to be adjusted. So that is in process, and hopefully landlords will be able to do a lot. Hopefully landlords will be able to do a lot more of the work, because as you all know, that it's a 24/7 job to be a landlord. But
and these are all requirements that were imposed by the federal government. So this is not Vermont saying, hey, landlords, we think you need to do this stuff. In fact, most of us would have been happy to continue running the RHSP program from last year. But these are just, this is the strings attached for this money. So
they've made it a little bit more difficult on us. But anyway, there's more money, and there's a lot of different pots of money coming in, so things can change as other states, because this is a federal program, it's happening all over the country. As other states are running into similar problems, the federal government is making adjustments to get the money out there as quickly and efficiently as possible to everyone. But going back to if a landlord does not want to participate in this program, the tenant can receive direct payments. So that's a huge change from the old program. So if they apply, the obligation for the administrators of the program are to reach out to the landlord to make 3 attempts to reach the landlord, and they'll do that every 5 days. So, and actually they're choking that down, how long we have. And I believe the most recent guidance, like Angela said, it just came out, we say 7. Is that the number?
Yeah, I think it's gotten shortened quite a bit. Yeah.
They'll try basically over the course of a week to reach a landlord, and if a landlord does not respond, then the payments can go directly to the tenant, and the tenant is supposed to pay their rent with that. And the impetus for that will be that they will not be able to receive future assistance until they provide a receipt for making that payment. So the tenants will have to log back in saying, yes, I received that, say $3,000, and I put it towards my back or future rent, and here's the receipt for that. Otherwise, they will not be able to continue with the program. However, if the landlord does want to participate at another time, then they can go back in and readjust the application. The main difference there is the fair market rent. So if the landlord does not certify, because they're just going on the tenant information, the cap on the rent is the fair market rent. In most cases, we find that the fair market rent established by HUD is lower than actual rents. That's why our voucher payment standards are usually higher than the fair market rent. That will be the cap for that amount for each month, and that'll be based on the location of the unit per county as determined by HUD, as well as unit size from 0 bedrooms up through 6, I believe, and then after that it sort of caps out at a certain point.
And Tyler, is that only if the landlord doesn't participate, or is that a blanket if the landlord's participating as well?
Only if the landlord does not participate does the fair market rent.
Yeah. So unlike RHSP, if the landlord's participating, this program will pay whatever your contract rent is on the unit.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. We do have some checks and balances in there. Our quality control process will be reviewing anything that comes in at 200% of fair market rent. It doesn't mean it won't get paid. It's the guidance says that we can pay. It's just that we'll look at it closely to to protect against fraud, so that we don't see these. In the last program, people were putting in the $5,000 a month for a studio in Rutland. And wait a second, it was a very nice studio, it turned out. But so yep, that's it. I have on the screen here, Mackenzie Bolus is our program assistant, most recently hired, and her address is on the screen here for questions. If you can take down, I can throw. Mackenzie was on here, was usually monitoring these as well, and she is giving her final presentation at UVM and graduating in a few days. So she had to take a bye on this one. But Mackenzie is available. It's just mackenzie.bolus@vsha.org, and we can put that in the Q&A maybe somewhere. So now I just want to jump over to the website here quickly, if that seems appropriate, Angela, to show people how they're getting
through. Because I think that is going to answer a bunch of questions in the chat and that we've received sort of offline, which relate to how do I know if my tenants applied? So that seems to be, a big one. And part of the process of getting to know whether your tenants applied or not is twofold. One, you may receive an email from the system. If your tenant has your correct email and put it in. And the other way is to get your landlord portal set up. And then when your tenant applies and selects you as the landlord, you will see them show up in your portal section.
So, okay, there.
Now, Tyler, one question. Well, you mentioned earlier that there'd be a drop-down list of landlords. Now, does that mean that the state has that pre-registered, or is that okay?
Yes, correct. So the Vermont State Housing Authority did send out, did upload all of the landlords that we use in both our Section 8 program and also the rental housing stabilization program. So they have that information in there. A lot of those landlords have been in there for a long time, and we're used to seeing them and we're able to access, because we know how they've put their names in there. There was a little bit of confusion because some people put even abbreviations like LLCs or ASSOC or something that were, it should be popping up now as if you get close, it's going to give you an option to find it, but try to put your name in as you have it on your W-9, and we'll show you uploading your W-9 is actually going to be the first step in getting yourself registered if you have not already. So this question,
you guys can tell me to keep moving if I'm slowing you down, but one of the things that, obviously being a real estate agent, if there's been recent transfers and you guys don't have the names of the new owners, should they just apply under the old owners? Should we directly reach out to you guys? Obviously they can put a man on the moon. We can figure this out.
Right. So we should definitely they're going to upload their new W-9 and then go back in to the system. If there's a new owner, I would say that you want to get them registered in there as quickly as possible to start doing it, making the payments going to the right place. Make it easier for our 1099 process too. So you'll go to our this is the homepage for Vermont State Housing Authority. Click on the click here part, and you will see it comes to the Vermont Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Across the top, you will see just the overview, renter eligibility, landlord information, utilities, and application assistance. As you scroll down, learn more. This is where the renters will apply, right there, where it says renters apply. And you can read a little more. I won't go through that too much. A lot of that I did cover in just the basic overview and the eligibility, but just to show you the website and also the income limits, because that's something that will be very important to the program as well, or to determining your eligibility. So they were able to click on that right there and see it by county and by bedroom size. And back here, and then here, yeah, please don't get discouraged. That's a general statement for everyone at all times. So we do have a call center, and the number right here, 833-488-3727, is available, Monday through Saturday. Shortened hours on Saturday, but we are keeping it open until 7 p.m. so that people can access that. Tenants can access that by pressing 1 or 2, whether they've started the application, if they have an application ID number yet, and landlords are going through the option 3 in the call center. One of the things that we've found to be the most helpful for landlords is to just leave your name and phone number, because it gives you that option, right? If you'd like to make a call back or receive a call back from the call center, give us your name and phone number. So otherwise you could be waiting, they're having, for 20 minutes or something. They say 5-minute wait time. Sometimes it's more. It just depends on the call volume. We have staffed that up. They have 65 people in the call center right now, but we receive a lot of calls, and we found that people, if you know that you're going to be there working on the application for the next hour or doing a bunch of your tenants at once, then leaving your phone number and waiting for the call back will just keep you from having to hold that phone to your ear for the whole time. So that option the callbacks do come. So if you'd like to speak to the call center, that would be the best way. So landlords, we'll go through the landlord information tab at the top there, and the landlord should upload their W-9 using this link below. And this is the first step in the process. So they're going here to upload. You'll click and let it populate, and you'll put in your email address, name, and the name of the company, and a contact phone number, and then drag your file to here. And this is going to be then entered into the portal manually. So this is not something that's automated. It's not that once you put your W-9 in there, you're automatically already registered in the system. This will have to be received and reviewed by a case manager, and then the information will be, so they say up to 48 hours max. Sometimes it does happen within a couple hours. Sometimes it will take that full 2 days before you find your name in the landlord portal there. So that's where you'll upload your W-9. There are frequently asked questions in the bottom, so please review these. They expand as you click them, and that will answer a lot of your questions, hopefully. Again, the call center number is on the bottom of every page. Remember to have all of the, this is the information that needs to be available, that you have the unit address, the monthly rent, and the amount of arrears since April 1st, 2020, and the amount of arrears requested to be paid under VERAP. And so that's what I was talking about before. You need to both put in the full amount of arrears that is due, and then how much you will be asking for. So again, this is communication with the tenant. There is a wonderful mediation service available if anybody needs it.
Oh, not yet. It's still in process.
Sorry, Angela. I always think it's available.
Coming soon.
Okay, coming soon to a theater near you. There will be a wonderful mediation service, which is helpful in the last program. And that if you are having trouble with communication with the tenant, that'll be of help. Right now, Vermont Legal Aid is also working with tenants, so tenants can reach out to them to get that information. It says disputes referred.
So I think the thing, and I'm pretty sure you said it, but I will say it again. The way you get into the landlord/owner portal is you have to first upload that W-9. So you are not going to be able to get into the landlord portal until you've uploaded your W-9 and your account has been processed by the program.
Thank you, Angela. I did say it, I think, but I'm glad you said it again, and I would happily say it again. Please upload your W-9 first. So when you get to that computer, have that digital W-9 ready to upload. And then you'll click here, you'll upload that, and then you'll find your name in the portal. And when you go over to the portal, it'll show you how to. It'll say last 4 digits of your tax ID number, the name of the company, and then you'll be able to pull up your into your access owner portal. And then when everything's up and running, you will click on access owner portal. Now, I will admit that since I am a landlord, right? So I have registered myself in here as well. So I already have a user account, but when you go to the register, I'm gonna see what happens, because I think what's going to have me do. So you'll register, you'll enter your email, you'll create a password, and then that's where you'll log in for the first time. And then once you have, oops, went too far. Sorry about that. Once you've registered, then this is where you will click on to get into the owner portal. So that's a portal once you've gotten the uploaded W-9 registered. So by clicking on that, it'll come up. Mine's auto saving. Again, you'll put in your email address, which would be your username, and then whatever password you've selected. Click continue, and it will launch you into the owner portal. There you go. Oh, now you'll know where I live. Anyway, verify the information on here. My tenants will not be applying, so I have not updated anything on here. Having my address is bad enough, but this will be the dashboard where you'll verify all your information. If there is an issue, then you can contact the call center again and update any of that contact information. And that's going to be really important, because that's where information will be sent out regarding missing documents, and also notification when tenants apply. So when you're in the portal here on the left-hand side, you will see all of this expanding menu. This is where you'll go to check up to see when your tenants have completed their application. And it's not just complete their application, but it's also they've been determined eligible. So a lot of times tenants will say, I did my application this morning, ready to go. And then landlords will call us, maybe the tenant said they completed their application and it's not there. That's because they haven't been determined eligible yet. They need to, a lot of times they haven't submitted all their documentation, or it just hasn't been completed by the case manager. And that can take, in the beginning, it's been taking, 5 to 10 days. We hope to have that down to within 5 days that the tenants will be determined eligible. Once they have been determined eligible, the landlord will be notified by their preferred method of email or text message or U.S. Postal Service, and then your units will appear here. So you'll click on the box that looks like a little house and hit the drop down. It'll just have all of your units listed that the tenants are in, and then you will click on that and certify the information. Unfortunately, I don't have any tenants, so I can't go through it. I probably shouldn't, even if I did. But it'll be the list of tenants, and you'll go in, and then you'll see that the rents, and you'll say yes, that's the right rent, that's the right amount of arrears, that's any of the other information that you need, attesting that you won't raise the rent, that the house meets, that it's doesn't have any safety violations, and that you'll participate in weatherization. The landlord portion is actually much shorter.
So Tyler, we did have a question that someone had gone in, they had seen one of their units in the portal, and they tried to go through and do the certifications, but it wasn't letting them sign the certification. So the normal block where you would type in,
Yeah.
I'm certifying this is my signature, it wouldn't let them type into that field. So I don't know if that's something that is maybe a glitch on the system's end.
I haven't heard that from anyone else. My first guess is that something's missing, right? That it doesn't, if one of the questions was not answered throughout, it will not let you certify at the end and sign.
Okay. So
that
that's probably the best piece of advice, is to go back up and check and make sure you've hit all of the questions and done all of the certifications. And then that block will sort of highlight and allow you to finish.
Correct, right? Once,
Okay.
yeah, it'll be grayed out probably, and that's why you're not able to sign, and that's almost always an indication that one of the questions was missed. There should be a red asterisk next to all the questions that are required. I believe all the landlord questions are required, so
Okay.
just make sure you go through that fully.
Okay.
Once the payments, we will be making payments on a weekly basis. We've done just a couple beta testings in the past couple of weeks. Right now we've received over 1,600 applications, and we have over $8 million already requested from tenants for the program in a month. So we're still pumping out 2 million a week in rental assistance somehow. It's,
Okay.
but
And have you have payments gone out the door already?
yes. So we did a couple payments, and the way we've done it, we did it with the rental housing stabilization program as well. We did some test payments. I think that there was 6 that went out the first time and 13 that went out the second time, something along those lines. And they, just to make sure that everything is coming back before we start sending out 200 payments and realize something went wrong. Both those have gone off flawlessly. So we're happy to say that the payments will start going out quickly once the owners are able to get in there and certify. So that is happening right now.
Okay. And I guess a follow-up question with that. So if the tenant has submitted their application and the landlord has gotten their information up into the portal, the landlord's not going to be able to see the to be able to go in to certify that tenant until the tenant application is complete.
More than
Right.
complete. It's been
Approved.
determined eligible, so
Okay.
approved. So the tenant has to have gone through everything, uploaded all their information. So there can be a lot of back and forth, right? Because the tenant that can drag out. In our Section 8 program, we ask for our annual recertification 4 months in advance, to give you an idea. Yep. So sometimes it's hard to get that information out of people. They're like, cool, we need your bank statement, we need your pay stub, we need something from, and it gets difficult because this is asking for the income from everyone over 18 in the household, right? So your son's home from college and working at the coffee shop, suddenly life's real, kid. You're gonna have
and so that may explain, for the landlords who log in, get their account set up, and then don't see any of their tenants there, even though their tenant said, I've applied. This may be part of the reason for the delay with seeing them show up in your dashboard.
Correct. In the unit certifications, actually.
In the unit certifications.
So,
and the landlord's not going to get any notification that the tenant hasn't provided enough information. That's going to be strictly between the program and the tenant.
Right. There's the personal information there. So that's something that every time they send something, right, that resets the clock on their determining eligibility. So there's some people that have had to send, we've seen 10, 15 documents, because they have all different jobs and incomes and Social Security and child support, and that's for everyone in the household. So it takes a while to determine, the eligibility of the household. Yep. And again, this is federal guidance. So this, and one thing that is, so if you had, say, 3 members of the household over 18, they're going to be counted towards the full household income eligibility. If 2 of the members submit their tax returns, they were 2020, but the third one doesn't have their tax return and is only able to submit their monthly payment information to verify, we'll have to do the monthly, the 3-month recertification. They'll have to go back in because it has to be for everyone. That's been a little point of contention for a lot of people. Hopefully, and there's not really a whole lot we can do about that. Just encourage people to.
Right.
This-
So one thing I want to, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Brian, but so a lot of landlords and even maybe some property managers, you're managing multiple properties. Some landlords have multiple entities that own properties. You can use one email for all of your W-9s. And the other thing you can do is once you get this account set up, you can link other entities to your account. So if you have like 5 LLCs and they all have their own W-9s, you can pull them into this one login account so you can see everything in one place. You don't have to have 5 different logins.
Right, and so it'll set it up. You'll go in through your same email address, and your PIN, your password will get you to the same portal, and you'll see it.
Yep, and I think you can add that under, is it under the accounts section?
Yeah.
So you can see them all in one place.
Right there.
So where it says link another account, that's where you could pull in your various LLCs.
Yeah.
If we we have a bunch of questions, and respecting the time, I want to make sure, and Tyler, this information has been extremely helpful. I just want to make sure we can get to some of the questions that we have before we potentially run out of time. One of the big questions that I see in coming is, does this accepting aid affect a eviction that is currently in process? And is that possible?
As of right now, other than if the tenant is catching up all of the rent, which would not allow you to proceed for non-payment of rent. As of right now, there is no eviction restriction for participating in this program. So I say as of right now, because that could change, but currently, no. You can participate in the program, and then when the moratorium lifts, if you have a pending case, proceed along with it, or potentially start a case for another reason. So
arrearage might be a part of that. That's why encouraging people to take care of their arrearage is, I mean, that's great, as you all know. But since that's a difficult, it's a tight line to walk, and trying to do what's best for each individual.
Yep. So when the tenant information is complete and been approved in the system, the landlord should receive an email telling them that the tenant application is complete, is my understanding.
Yes, the landlord, will receive an email. Also look for attachments in your emails, because a lot of times there'll be a PDF attachment, which will be letter forms that you can print it, save for your records, or save digitally. So checking for attachments. A lot of people have been looking on their phone and they've missed attachments. You say, just make sure that you find that attachment. It'll say exactly what's missing, and that's where the information will be.
Okay. So we have somebody that did point out that they sat with their tenant, helped their tenant upload or complete part of the application, and then it showed up immediately in the landlord's portal. So it seems like sometimes it's showing up and sometimes it's not showing up. But I don't think that you can progress further with the certifications for the landlord until the tenant application's been approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if it's in there, it should be ready to go. So you never know how long it's going to take. That's
right.
That's right. I quickly want to just show you just over here. Once you see it, this is where it looks to be a lot of people, calling the last program. What's the status? What's the status? This is where you'll be able to check your payments. So that this is, you'll check it by, you can check it by date range if you're looking for that, but it'll also it'll list your landlord name, the check date, number, amount, the tenant name, address, all of that. So you will have sort of a dashboard to keep going back in and checking on your payment status.
So I've had a few questions from landlords who have been working with their tenants, and maybe they know in a month or two their tenant has said, yes, I'm going to go. Maybe there was some sort of notice sent to the tenant. Those folks can still apply and still get funding for the period of time that the tenant is living in the unit. So if the tenant isn't going to move till July, or even isn't going to move till the end of June, the two parties can still apply and get coverage for those months when the tenant is living there.
Right.
The ones that are more challenging and may not be able to happen is if the tenant has already moved.
We're working on that. That's all I know. I don't, again, that's something that we're looking at, because sometimes it's back, a history, a rental history that's keeping them from moving into perhaps public housing or something like that. So we're hoping to have that in place where they could pay arrears in a place they did not live. However, no matter what, it won't be able to go back before April 1st of 2020. So if it's recent arrearage, it is, supposed to be COVID. I do want, before we jump, just on this side, and this is I've actually requested that this be changed to payment form, because that'll attract everyone's eye when it says money. Get your money here. Right now it just says but when you click on, this is where you'll find the form. So just because you've uploaded your W-9, this is all payments will be done ACH. It's direct deposit. So this is where you will need to put in your direct deposit form. So you can click on these, then it'll make your digital copy, and then you can upload it here in owner documents. Also back here in owner documents, this is where you will be able, if they ask you for other types of verification, a ledger, if there's a major discrepancy. If there's a very small discrepancy, we're able to push things through using the higher number. If it's a few bucks, we're not going to hold things up for that. If it's a few $1,000s, obviously we need some more documentation. But this is where you'll see these, your direct deposit form, your lease, utilities, if that's pertinent, and then W-9 form. So if you're uploading, this is another place that you can do the W-9 forms. So you'll just click and drag, or you can browse your documents there. You can also send messages here to the caseworkers if you have questions. And it'll have a history of your messages that you've sent.
Right. And so I've received a series of questions both offline, and there's a couple that I see that are showing up in the chat saying, what do we do if the tenant's refusing to participate, or if they're over the income guidelines and they don't qualify? So what I can tell you is currently there is a bill that's working its way through the House. It's almost out of the House, and it will go quickly to the Senate because it's attached to a larger bill that everybody wants to have passed, where there have been some exceptions added to the eviction moratorium. And one of them is the tenant is not applying to the VERAP program or is not eligible for the VERAP program. It's going to potentially be an exemption to the moratorium. So, the legislators have heard from landlords, they have heard the requests, and they are making some changes to account for this issue of tenants have to apply and provide information, and also that some may not be eligible but are refusing to pay. If this happens, I have heard rumors the legislature is going to break for the session at the end of next week. So we will know within the next week if that's going to happen. It seems likely at this point, but I don't like to promise anything because who knows?
Yeah, basically what it's saying is the money is there and available. If all you have to do is fill out this application, that might take you an hour or two, but it'll pay your rent for a year.
Right. Right.
And there is plenty of places to get that. I did want to get back in this application assistance. This is back on our web page here. So tenants should be able to access that to all the different community actions and homeownership centers done by county. So if tenants can't do it because they don't have internet access or don't know how to use a computer or anything like that, that's available. There is a paper application that will be available by reasonable. It has to be a direct request for a paper application. It's a reasonable accommodation. So that's not something that, and they will have unique identifiers. So you can't just get the paper application, make photocopies of it and do all of your tenants. They will be tracked separately.
So we got a question about, landlord said I haven't been sending notices because everybody's assuming the rent relief's coming. and the requirement that the tenant has received some delinquency notice, they can send a late rent like statement again. So if you're like using QuickBooks, it allows you to run that statement paperwork, you know, that just something saying, hey, you haven't paid rent. It doesn't have to be an official eviction notice.
Yep, surprise, surprise. But a lot of we've gotten those Vermont landlords that put it like on an index card or on the back of an envelope that says your rent is late, and signed it and dated it. I mean, anything written, of course, the more formal and legible it is, the better. I will stress that, but doesn't have to be one that was. This is not for an eviction, so it doesn't have to meet the same guidelines or timeline.
Exactly. So I'm looking through the Q&A here just to see. Yes, I know the signing on the screen with your finger or the mouse is challenging and may not actually
reflect your real signature.
reflect your real signature.
Don't worry about it. It's do the best you can. I know it is. That's
Yep.
Anything that's in there will count as your signature.
Right. So if you're a landlord and you don't have anyone currently in the program, it's the normal rules for raising rent. So it's 60 days for every place outside of Burlington, and in Burlington it's 90 days for rent increases. So that's fine. I'm not sure how the program is going to do that if they're not in the program and they've sent a rent increase and it goes into effect and then they apply into the program. I'm not sure what they'll do with it. It's probably consider it part of the normal course and that it's happened. But I don't know that we've gotten to that point of sort of dealing with those situations yet. So the grant period, so we keep referring to this grant period. So the grant period is the amount of time that you're receiving payments under the program. So it may be in 3-month blocks, depending on how the tenants are certifying their income, or it may be for a longer period of time. So up to 15 months total. So it's for the amount of time that you're receiving money from the program.
So, Tyler, one of the questions that comes up, this is very tech heavy. So if we've got tenants that don't have internet, some of them may not even have email addresses, we're going to have to actually go and meet with them and help them create email addresses, create all that information, at least currently until the paper process is up and running.
Correct. Or they can go through those community partners, as I was just showing that list that's on our website, says application assistance. That has not been updated with the trainings that we've done this week. So there will be at least another one for every county. And these are organizations that have received either the Housing Stability grant funds through AHS, or the homeownership centers have also received community development block grant money to assist people. And so that part of that is helping people with applications. So directing them to different community service organizations, Veterans Inc. has gotten it, and all of the homeless prevention centers and all the community actions, all of the housing trusts, land trusts around the state, they've all received training as well, and will help their own tenants, as well as the homeownership centers have the ability to help any tenant. Yep. Well,
earlier in the program, you said on the landlord side, they'll reach out to the landlord 3 times before they sort of give up on the landlord. My words, not yours. Is there anybody that's going to reach out to our residents if our residents/tenants aren't participating in the program but are behind on rent?
I think that's coming. A lot of the folks, the partners, Vermont Legal Aid and others, are in the process of getting staffed up. And so part of the outreach, my understanding is, will be available if landlords are saying, hey, I've applied in, I want to access this, my tenant hasn't put in an application, that there will be a process for folks on the tenant side to do some outreach to try to get that application in. We're not quite there yet. We're trying to get all of these pieces in place to make sure the system's working really well. But my understanding is that is coming.
And if they haven't seen it, maybe they just don't know about it. If they haven't applied, the landlord maybe they just aren't in touch with the tenant. We will be doing a major marketing campaign starting on Monday of next week, the 17th, including television ads, radio, social media. There's gonna be posters going up around. There was an article in 7 Days. I think maybe somebody saw that this morning.
Yep, just came out today.
Yep, VPR grilled me for a while, so there's gonna be a lot. You'll be hearing it all over the place. And we also have we have the emails for 2,500 landlords that we're sending out. We'll be doing a mass emailing to all the landlords in our list, and with also instructions and links and everything in there. So that'll be going out next week, as well as the tenants. So the tenants, any tenant that received assistance from us, will be receiving information that the program is available.
Yep. And so we had one more question about the rental increases, and I know this is you know, a very concerning component for landlords. If you have a tenant that's leaving and then new tenants moving in and they're signing a new lease with you, that same rent increase restriction does not apply. So you can contract with the new tenants for the rate that the unit needs to be at. And, you know, and if you are applying for assistance with that new tenant, that's okay, because the lease is going to lay out what that rental amount is. So the program's not going to be like, well, where's your past lease? And we want to make sure that it's the same. If it's a new set of tenants, it's whatever you and the tenant have agreed to in the lease.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't miss any else in the how is housing instability demonstrated by tenants. So again, that's that tenants received a termination notice or received a late payment statement.
Utility, yeah, of anything like that. And the financial hardship, showing significant financial hardship, that can also be, that's housing instability because you haven't been able to pay. So you can actually upload that as well. There's something showing significant financial hardship.
Yep. So that's,
and it should be known too, when tenants don't have their own email address, and that third party, there is a place in the tenant application where you can say that this has been filled out by a third party. The tenant does need to provide the income information, but then that can also be the alternate contact. So both people. So if a case manager from CVOEO does an application for somebody, they will be receiving emails saying that we need this information. We need their a copy of their lease, or we need their income information. And so it can all go through that third party.
Yep.
Landlords may have good, with the good relationships, there's a lot of things are possible in working with your tenants to make this happen.
Yep. And so again, sort of recapping, the tenant needs to have sort of that housing instability, but their income level has to be at 80% AMI or below. And there is a chart on the Vermont State Housing Authority website in this portal section, not the portal section, but the informational section of the website, that lays it out. It changes by county and by household, number of people in the household. And so their income has to be below that. But I would encourage people to apply anyway, because you may be surprised. I was surprised when I was looking at the numbers of what household income is for 80% or below.
Chittenden County, a family of 3 is 69,000. So a lot of people will qualify.
Yep. And how much money do we have in the program? Vermont State Housing Authority was allocated $110 million for this program. This is the stimulus bill that was passed in December of 2020. So this is what we refer to as ERA-1. There is ERA-2, and we haven't even touched that pot of money yet. So we have $110 million right now, and there's more money that's coming for rental assistance.
And I think there was
So,
still some left over. I think they've held
Yeah.
50 or something like that under the gold
Yep.
dome there. And
Yep.
if this starts cranking and everybody needs it, and there's a little bit more money, that
Yep.
it could get
Yep.
little injection.
So the tenant doesn't, now here's what gets really kind of weird with some of these certifications is the tenant doesn't actually have to have any rent arrearage to apply for the program.
That's a good.
So they don't actually have to own any back rent. So they can come and certify, I need help, I'm going to have trouble paying the rent. Here's what the monthly rent is, I'd like help going forward. And that's okay, they don't have to owe rent.
Yep, this is, I mean, it's part of the economic stimulus package. This is coming from the U.S. Treasury, who doesn't usually design housing programs, and now we know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they'll help everyone. They'll come back, have some extra money in their pockets, and they will, shop at the local stores, and we'll get our economy up and running, opening up businesses, and that's part of the goals of this program, to help stimulate the economy.
Yep. So I think we have, for the most part, covered the questions that I received offline. I think that the challenging for landlords is the tenants that are not wanting to participate and not wanting to apply into the program. And right now we're just waiting to see if this legislative change is going to go through, because that may change some people's minds about not wanting to participate if they now know that the landlord can go to court and say, my tenant's not applying, I want to proceed with an eviction. We may see some changes in behavior if that happens, but that is in the works, and that would be the way to deal with the folks who are not applying, unfortunately. So I say unfortunately because we want people, this is a program to help people get their rent paid. And so, the sense that there are tenants who just for whatever reason aren't taking advantage of this is is frustrating, I think, for everybody, landlords, tenant advocates, it's.
And Angela, we were talking about this yesterday, but I think a lot of this is also, not all of it, but a lot of it's in our approach, because anybody who's on this, Zoom who owns a building is not getting paid can appreciate how infuriating it is. Yet the worst thing I find that we can do is let that, anger show in our conversations, because people end up digging their heels in. And, and so I think I'd encourage anybody, on this Zoom to reach out to me, talk with us. We've had a great success rate getting our tenants who needed help, the help that they needed. And a lot of it is in the conversation and how you approach them. And unfortunately, a lot of time that's putting our emotions aside from the fact that we haven't been paid in X number of months. Yeah.
So there is not a standard mail-in paper application process for this program like there was for RHSP. There will, in the not so distant future, you will have the ability to request a paper application if you don't have, say, access to a computer or have some technology challenges as an accommodation, but they're not going to be given out as a matter of course like they were with the RHSP. So everything's very portal and online driven. And it's just mostly due to the size of the program.
Yep, and they will again have unique identifiers. So we'll send out a paper application, and it'll have a code on it so that we know that where it went, so it's not being proliferated.
Right. So you can't get a paper application and photocopy it and use it again and again. It's a unique document. And we did have another question about the repair funding. So that part of the program hasn't launched yet. We sort of flagged it because it's coming. But the details for it are still being worked out. But I wanted landlords to be aware that it's going to be available. It's another funding source through this program if there's some issues that are identified as a part of the application, or even if folks know that they're there and the landlord can't fix them because they don't have rent money, there, you may be able to get some assistance for those repairs through this program. Coming soon.
Coming soon. This program goes through September of 2022. I mean, that's as long as the funding's available, the money's there. So it'll be here for a while. This is not a sprint. This is the long haul. Well, long, short, whatever. But there's a ton of vouchers coming in. So we're hoping this will clear up some of those back rent issues that were preventing people from getting vouchers. And of course, hopefully more money will be coming in for actual creation of housing stock, and that's part of the problem, right? So we'll issue all these vouchers and nobody can find a place to live because there is nowhere to go.
Right.
And so hopefully that's going to be changing. Those rehab programs were really successful, but they do have a lot of strings attached to those. But I think that
we fingers crossed that bill that the moratorium exemptions are attached to has a new rehab funding mechanism in it. So that program could be up and running again this summer if that same bill goes through the legislature. So, there's a lot of positives, I think, happening right now, and a lot of opportunities for landlords. And, sort of irrespective of the tenants, but also, working together, this is a big opportunity for both parties.
Right. And the American Rescue Plan funds, I believe, are through 2025.
Yeah. That's the ERA 2 that we haven't even gotten to yet.
Right. So that's what we haven't even gotten to. So this is around. We've gotten a lot of money coming into the state for housing. It's, one of those things that comes in, emergency situations, sort of bring everything to the surface. It happened during Irene. A lot of things changed after that. Realizing, especially mobile homes, things that needed to be done and addressed for a long time. The emergency situation brings it to the surface, and there's a lot of long-term fixes that'll be happening here. But this is, again, that's 4 years. Right. So we'll all have a degree, a bachelor's of rental assistance by the end of this.
Yep.
Does either one of you know if there's going to be, the opportunity to secure funding for, repairs that were done during the last 6 months, during the last year related to COVID? Is one of the questions we have is, do we know if repair funding will be available for repairs already made?
Reimbursement money for repairs already made?
I don't know.
That hasn't come up yet. That would be
Tyler's going to write it down and, run it up the flagpole.
It's going to be, yes, absolutely. That I don't think that would be an administrative burden at all. Let me see. Yeah. But I guess, I imagine that all of this new funding, though, again, will, no matter what happens, that April 1st, 2020 is pretty solid with a lot of this stuff as far as arrearages or things going back. So
it's not outside the realm of possibilities that that portion of the program will track those dates. So if you add receipts showing, hey, there was this issue and we had to do this repair, and it's between April 1st, 2020 and now, it's not outside the realm of possibilities. So we're not making any promises because that portion of the program is still under development, but it's not sort of out of left field. And I think the person that's asking the questions makes a good point, is that we don't really want landlords to be deferring those repairs until money is available. So, saying, oh no, sorry, not you, because you were being responsible and did the right thing, kind of doesn't play with that sense of fairness. So, it makes sense. And that's why these forums are great, because people make suggestions or ask questions, and then, programs get shifted or tweaked as long as they're within the program rules. And, maybe there's another component here that folks weren't thinking about. So.
We've had a lot of great questions. Is there any questions, Angela and Tyler, you think we should have asked, but we haven't asked yet?
I just would encourage all of the landlords, if you haven't uploaded your W-9 into the system, to get that W-9 uploaded, because nothing on your end can start until that's happened and until your account's created. So get that in there and get that portion set up.
Yep, get in here, click the W-9. That's the first thing. But remember that you're the direct deposit. We're actually working to get the direct deposit on this portion as well, so that'll come through.
I think as a property management company, we're going to be able to do this for our owners, so long as we have their appropriate 9. There's not going to be an issue with property managers doing it for their owners.
No.
Okay.
No,
in other
there's
words,
not actually a lot of property managers are doing it for their owners. Correct.
I assume so. Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, there is an issue though, where a tax ID number can only be tied to one company, right? So you can't have different names, and some landlords have 3 different names of their properties, or 3 different buildings that have different names, but they all use the same EIN. So that's something that can't happen here. There needs to be a unique property. Again, it will be easier to manage that by looking when you go to your payments, knowing what went where and to what address, but there might have to be some internal accounting done on behalf of landlords as well.
Excellent.
All right. Well, we did run over a bit, but I think we had a lot of good questions, and this was a really good conversation. And for a lot of folks, this is the first time they've seen sort of the inside of the portal and sort of seen like, this is what we need to do, or what information do we have to have. So I figured we probably would go long today.
Well, we've got one last question, and Tyler, may not be your bailiwick, but Angela, what have you heard about landlords using vaccination as a tenant selection criteria?
I would say, like any tenant selection criteria, you want to make sure that you're not running afoul of any fair housing rules and requirements. And there are all different types of reasons why people get vaccinated or not. And so you may be treading into some fair housing things. And I would just say, sort of be careful. So
I would agree based on that one, maybe running into, religious and so forth. Tyler, can't stress enough. We really appreciate, and Angela as well, everything the Landlord Association is doing, everything Vermont State Housing is doing. Very interesting times for certain. And I can't stress anybody enough. First, that joined us, thank you for your time and all your questions. The other thing as well, let's, remember our approach to our tenants and our residents is going to have a huge impact in their willingness to participate. And it's going to be an interesting time. And please look forward to joining us for more of these sessions. And if we can help you with anything, please reach out to us, Strongwell Property Management or Strongwell Real Estate, and certainly Angela at the Vermont Apartment Owners Association. Tyler, you've got your job cut out ahead of you, so we can't stress enough. Thank you to you and your team for all that you're doing. It is greatly appreciated.
Yes, and thank you all you landlords for providing housing. It's really sometimes can be thankless work, but it is appreciated, and we're hoping that this helps to keep that housing available.
And we know that the landlords were hugely responsible for the success of the RHSP program. And that program would not have been as successful without all of the landlords who participated and who went knocking on doors and got tenant signatures and got tenants engaged in the process. So we're here to tell all of you, you are doing a great job. Keep it up. And it has been noticed in places that maybe previously landlord participation and has not been sort of given its due hand clap or kudos.
Due respect.
Due respect. There you go. Word just kind of flew out of my head. So
go in and upload your W-9, everyone. This is where you go. Go to the website, go to the landlord information section, and upload that W-9. There are links to the form as well at the top of this page, or when you click over to the landlord. If you don't have a W-9, click on this. The link will take you right there.
And one sort of point on the W-9, if you don't have an EIN, you will be using your social security number. So And there's a spot on the form depending on which number you're using. So you don't have to have an EIN. Lots of folks have it because of how they have their businesses set up. But if you don't have that, you would be using your social security number.
Excellent.
Right, whatever, yeah, your tax identification
Yep,
number.
whatever you're using for taxes. Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we will look forward to seeing hopefully some of you back for the next session in June. So these are always the second Thursday of the month in the noon hour.
Thank you, everyone. Tyler, thank you again. Angela, always a pleasure. Thanks for
Yes.
everything your association's doing.
Thank
Great,
you.
thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Bye.